Good afternoon, everybody. This is Graham Proud here of Insurance Nexus. Welcome to this webinar on transforming innovative insurance ideas into reality. Just like to start by saying a big thank you to our panelists today, Viktorija, Elena, and Samantha. Thank you so much for joining us. From our point of view at Insurance Nexus, this is a really great topic and something very close to our hearts. We really believe that this is a new era for insurance companies, a new era of no excuses in many ways. And it's widely accepted that relevant insurers will always come up with a way of delivering personalized insurance products and services. And we have a huge respect for this endeavor. And we know it's not easy, but those that prove themselves to be ambitious and embrace change are willing to put the customer at the forefront of this will be most successful. So in tribute to this process and around this topic, we are gathering the community together next year in May on the 15th and 16th in Amsterdam for the 4th edition of Connected Insurance Europe 2019. And we've really built a program which we've consulted our advisory board with, looking how agile startups have recently put all of this positive pressure onto the incumbents to deliver products that really interact with the customer intuitively and respond in a bespoke fashion to the customer's requirements. And this is really exciting to see. And it's a really an era of collaboration in many ways where insurers and insurtech are forming these fantastic partnerships and pushing product forwards. With this, of course, we know there are huge challenges and innovation generally comes at a great cost in many respects. Internally, insurers are tackling issues with legacy systems, processes, communication, culture, enterprise architecture. It really is a huge challenge, but with huge rewards. So we want to next year really gather heads of product, those involved in innovation and strategy, the IT and tech departments, and get those people into the same room and talk about how they're pushing product forwards, how they're making it a reality. So do check out the website for Connected Insurance Europe, which is events.insurancenexus.com. Have a look at that. And as a precursor to that event next year, really looking forward to hearing the conversations that we're going to have this afternoon from our panelists around innovative insurance product, etc. So without further ado, Samantha, I'll pass over to you and look forward to hearing what you guys have to say.
Great. Thanks, Graham. Good afternoon and good morning to everyone who might be in the U.S. like myself. I am Samantha Chow. I'm the Senior Analyst at Aite Group, focusing on life insurance and annuities. Aite Group is an independent research firm that focuses on financial services on a global scale. And like I said, my expertise comes from the life and annuities side, where I've worked for large carriers such as New York Life and Aflac with over 20 years of experience in the life insurance segment. So I thought that I would take the opportunity to introduce the topic before I passed it over to both Elena and Viktorija. Elena is Chief Underwriting Officer at Zurich, and Viktorija is Senior Risk Manager for Europe at Uber. But before I pass it over to these wonderful women, who I'm sure have lots and lots to say on this topic of new product innovation, just kind of wanted to set the stage about some of the changes that have been happening in the industry, some of those trends that are driving this need for insurance carriers across the globe to look closely at the product offerings that they have and to kind of innovate and bring together new products and put out new products for the consumers of today. There's a huge gap in demographics, as we're all aware. You've got the baby boomers that are exiting the market, so they've got their retirement products, and they're slowly kind of exiting the area, moving into retirement and such. But you also have this very large younger generation, the millennial generation, X, Y, and Z, coming in, and they've been kind of raised in a very different environment. Their needs are very different because their surroundings are now very different. Their behaviors are also very different and continue to change as a result of all the options that they have. And when I talk about options, what I'm really talking about are the options and how they want to communicate with people, how they want to buy anything from the everyday pair of shoes to, their insurance policies, whether it be life insurance or auto or home as they're going into their first home. And then again, as they start to invest in products that are going to help them retire, because let's be honest, they all think they're going to retire at the age of 40, and I wish them all luck. But as I think back, and we think about these changing behaviors, we can't stop and say that every millennial prefers a digital method of purchasing, because they don't in all aspects of their life. Some may not, but we have to take into consideration that, every 20-year-old doesn't feel like they need to talk online or do everything automatically through the internet in order to purchase something like their life insurance or auto or what have you. They want guidance. So that's a challenge that our industry is facing in terms of how do we meet this robust desires. We have to meet them on their terms or we're not going to gain their business. So behaviors are something to really consider as we go down this path of product development. Longevity is another main issue that we're seeing. People are living longer, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily living healthier. With with telematics and the protective things put into cars where you're no longer, you're going to get vibrated or beeped at if you start to drift out of your lane, things of that nature. People aren't having as many accidents, so we're reducing the accidental death. New medical advances have enabled us to live longer. So our body is living longer, but our brain isn't necessarily lasting to the extent of our body. So we are seeing a lot more Alzheimer's and dementia and things of that nature, but we don't necessarily have products to fit that new trend of longevity. And then we have this convergence of life, health, wealth, all of this. That younger generation thinks of it all as kind of one thing. So we're going from just the agent and online sales to holistic type products that include everything, including your P&C type products. So, and this doesn't just hit at an individual one-on-one basis, it also hits at the work site. Benefits are now the competitive advantage at the employer. I'm going to choose this company over that company because maybe they still offer a pension, which I'm not sure who offers a pension anymore. But there are few and far between. But things of that nature that are going to support what they want out of their future will become the competition on how I choose the job that I choose. And then you have products that we've talked about, that we've seen some of, and things that we expect to see more of coming in the future, especially as a result of the sharing economy, products around that, on-demand insurance, solutions that incorporate wellness. We're seeing a lot of that when you think of like the Vitalities of the world and John Hancock. We Savvy is another. And then you have the combining of good old-fashioned insurance products, these products that we know are tried and true and have been around, and they have a need, or they fill the need of this group of individuals, but but by coupling them together, they provide a greater solution and meet a greater need and tend to resonate a little bit better than your basic, say life insurance or just auto insurance. So those are kind of the things that we're seeing as I speak to carriers, as I speak to vendors, as I follow InsurTech and FinTech, the things that are really driving a lot of this change. And I'm sure, like I said, Elena has a lot to offer here. And I'm going to turn it over to her to get her input on what's going on in the market as it relates to product ideas.
Yeah, thank you, Samantha. I'm currently the Chief Underwriting Officer for Zurich in Italy. I have always been in the insurance market. It's about 25 years now. And I went through all the different revolutions, actuarial 1.0, looking at actuarial 2.0 now, looking at big data, all the different things which allow us to have more insights of new customers and new trends. I think the best thing is to start with an overview of the fundamental challenges that the industry is facing right now. Some of them have been touched by Samantha, but I would add some of them. The first one, it's the biggest, is the global economic and geopolitical environments with slower growth and low interest rates. We have an intensification of regulation, which is making our life much more difficult with more stringent solvency rules, increased data protection, increased transparency in distribution, for example. We have another trend, which is an evolution also on the distribution side, brokers, aggregators, new banks and affinities. We also have, obviously, and this is what we're talking about today, innovation and technology, new paradigm of digital and mobile first, for example, and with all the different solutions that we are looking at these times. There's another trend, which is the customer revolution, which is forcing us to go into more transparency, real-time interaction, hyper-connectivity. And this goes into, a new ecosystem, if you want so. And last but not least is the evolving risk pools. So we have more severe NatCats, climate changes. We are moving from individual to commercial risk. Let's think about the autonomous cars, for example. And new emerging risks like cyber, for example. Aging population, Samantha was talking about that before, and the fact that we are becoming caregivers rather than, those who receive the care. So we need to take care of older parents, our kids, and so on and so forth. So for each of these fundamental challenge, a new way of looking at things, the insurance market had to invent something new or needed to be ready to propose new products, new services, new peace of mind for the customer. So besides the fact that we're still looking into satisfying the needs, and we have a lot of traditional products which still exist, most of them are traditional products also on the P&C side. We still have to cover the car, the property, contents, travel, whatever. We are moving into a service type of approach with adding up alerts for our car with the use of telematics devices and so on. We have new ways of interaction through the use of chatbots. We're using connected houses these days, cyber solutions also with a service type of approach. I'll tell you where your system could fail, for example, without mentioning the welfare space, which is one of the biggest challenges that we face in these days. Moving into the peace of mind, same thing. With the use of a lot more devices, we can really have an interactive life and health approach with our customers. we're moving into prevention. We are adding up new products which, instead of giving the cover when the disease appears, we go and try to track the development of the disease over the time and give them the customers the right products to make sure that he can, let's say, feel more secure, followed, and someone is taking care of them. Smart houses, same thing. We have a lot of devices going on, starting with Vodafone, but there's many more. The Hive, we have. So basically, the thing is, we're trying to add new devices, new technologies into this new ecosystem, which is done by traditional products. On top of them, we just add this new additional services in these 3 pillars: satisfaction of a need, service, and peace of mind. And every single thing we're working on right now is with this type of approach. The other bigger part that we're looking at goes in the space of small, medium enterprises. Again, there to the normal needs of the single company, small company, or medium to large company. We add up additional services, devices, which goes into the space of protecting, preventing, and all those critical things that the customer is expecting. So every single thing that we're doing goes in the direction of connecting more and more, serving and preventing damages, in all the spaces, from the house to the car to the travel to the wealth and health space, income protection, personal and savings, and so on, and interactive life and health. I think from a P&C perspective, I could mention new products in the space of cyber. We don't necessarily have the right experience on that, so we are launching a lot of pilots. I can see that in many companies in almost all the countries, but testing how it works and how we can start producing a new product able to serve that space. Pet insurance is the other area, and again, with a lot of devices which allow us to see how our pets behave and feel, content and extended warranties, with the approach of adding up services when I have a loss or a damage to my devices. Property goes into the smart home type of approach. Health, again, with the use of bracelets Samantha was mentioning. Vitality, that's very much where all the insurance company are making a lot of experiments to make sure that they cope with the new needs going forward. With that, I think everyone is very interested in listening what Viktorija has to say and her word.
Okay, I can start. Thanks, Elena. To start with a bit about me, I'm been now 1 year with Uber, but to be honest, it feels like 6 years. I look after insurance across all European markets, moved from very traditional reinsurance world to tech. It's been in the reinsurance world nearly 10 years. And if you ask what happens when tradition meets tech world, I brought some structure to start with, created usage-based motor offering actually with Zurich in Switzerland. It was first product of its kind in Europe. It was not existing before. And our really proud achievement we built as a team from scratch and launched partner protection, which covers all driver partners across Europe, covering all 21 countries in one go, giving accident and social protection for gig economy independent workers. And from all this experience, my key takeaways would be, for insurance providers, they must innovate products by first focusing on people. And what I mean by that, so creating really tailor-made products for gig economy workers. Second, building flexible usage models for any means of mobility. It could be a car, it could be e-bike, it could be a scooter. Third, creating really unexpected new partnerships. And what I mean by all these 3 points and why this focus is important for 2019. So first, as you mentioned, honestly, like you need to put people at the core. You need to ask a question, do you really know your customer? And I think we all familiar about the traditional white-collar independent contractor, but we're not really in tune with what is real gig economy independent workers' needs are. And they're completely different. So they're super cash flow sensitive. Let's say Uber partner driver, like the 1 week earning, if they don't hit the target, the family members, it will affect their living. They don't have necessarily savings. They're not, a lot of them are not native language speakers in the country of residence. And that ties into the second point, that communication come in here. So how do you explain an insurance product in the most simple and straightforward way that anyone from non-insurance industry can understand? And that relates to end consumer, and it relates, to be honest, internal at Uber, when we need to explain to a general manager about all the different insurance technicalities, exclusions. It's very difficult for non-insurance person to understand. And third, so I mentioned flexibility. So why do you think flexible usage insurance products for motor or other means of transportation are the key? So as you know, all the current trends, so there is a prognosis in Europe in 2030, their study shows that almost 1/3 of population, it will be more economical to use on-demand mobility than to own a car. So if you look at your current insurance offering, so it's now mainly annual or fixed. The coverage is commercial or personal. The mileage is fixed per year. It's really targeted at single ownership, not dual or multiple. And a lot of vehicles are unused, 95%. What it needs to be now, so customer wants freedom. They want to use their vehicle as they choose with the insurance coverage that adapts. They need to be ability to top up or switch on new coverage for short periods. On claims, they want fast and flexible solutions, automated, integrated. That ties in about sensitive to cash flow. So the partners cannot wait like months or 2 months until they receive a claims payment. So all in all, the current standard motor insurance product in the market are very inflexible and do not match the emerging needs of a large group of customers for more freedom. And finally, I mentioned partnerships, and we had really successful ones. So it's all about co-designing the product together. So it starts from survey, research, testing prototypes before we launch the product, and it's all based on our assumptions. It's all about claims integration, and as well, like no one-dimensional thinking. So multi-territorial scope, be involved in the whole value chain. So being at Uber, we don't have a lot of lean team, so we're involved in all the chain of a product. At the beginning, marketing, comms, claims, contracts. So you have really holistic view of a product. And of course, how it's really hard to have a formula, but just my key takeaway is have a really open innovational mindset. So challenge the status quo. Don't try to fit existing underwriting guidelines because it's a new risk and it doesn't fit. start from scratch, think through, and it's one of the core Uber values, and which I really like. It's be the owner, not the renter. So really take responsibility, and it starts and ends with people. And second, it's all about driver flexibility. So put always customer first. And I think too many businesses get bogged down in the process of innovation and can really lose sight of a key beneficiary in this process. And third, I think you all know about data, and all models need adapting this new data. So currently, underwriting is based on vehicle years, but you need, what about kilometers of use, in-app safety features, data science and machine learning, GPS telematics, peer-to-peer rating, and this list goes on. But they need to be found and use this data to enrich customer experience. So to sum up, what you need for future product development is actually very simple. It's simplicity. Make complex insurance straightforward, user-friendly, and that starts from getting a quote till the end, claims payment, and it starts and ends with people. I think that's all from me.
Great. I'll go ahead and remind everybody, if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them online. I have a few already from some people, but I'll remind you to actually submit them online if you have them. We've got plenty of time to answer. So the first one that I have came in is for you, Elena, and it says, can you give some more detail around your POCs in terms of volume and how many reach scale, and what are kind of the characteristics of successful POCs, and what are you most excited about? It's a loaded question.
An easy one. The one that we're testing now is related to smart home. We have a well-known partnership with Vodafone and Samsung in Zurich. And what we did was to choose the best agents. Italy is mainly an agent market, so we're driven by agents more than direct or brokers. And we choose the best agents that we have in the portfolio. And with them, there were 30 of them. We made this POC, proof of concept. We gave them the opportunity to sell the best policy we have in a household. And attached to this, we had the devices to connect the house. So basically, if there's smoke in the house, the app will let you know that the smoke detector is facing some issues. Same thing with the water leakage. Same thing with someone who's entering in your house unexpectedly. So, normally it takes 2 to 3 months. We have 400 devices, so we expect to sell 400 policies with this type of approach, which is combining a traditional products, as I was saying, with something new to be tested. So far, so good. We just started and we had already sold 40 of these devices. So basically, 40 out of 400. Still sometimes to experiment. At the end of the 3 months, we will understand if the needs of the customers were met. We are collecting feedback from the agents, and we are basically trying to understand if we need to refine the product. So this was one. The second one, which we are currently running, is more on the, let's say, dynamic pricing, approaching direct. So we are experimenting two POC now, one in traditional channel and the other one in direct. And the basic idea on the other one, direct, is to see if we can automate discounts according to customer needs and price sensitivity, and related to how the competitors are moving in terms of pricing. So some sort of the approach that you're used to see in other industry like travel, airfare, when you enter the Ryanair or whatever, you see that the price can change every hour. If you really want to buy a ticket, you can see differences in pricing like that. We cannot play with pricing that much, but we can play with discounts. So this second POC, which is running in the REITs, is basically testing this approach. It will take another 3 months to make sure that the results are solid. Once we find out that we can get, a good compromise between increasing the size of the book and keeping the same level of profitability, we say the POC is successful and we go on with production. So, I hope that gives an idea of how we try to do things. We always make this approach, we always use this for every single new idea that we want to experiment. We launched a POC with what we call friendly agents or directly, whatever, but we want to make sure that whatever we launch in the market makes sense.
Great, thanks. Next question I have here is for Viktorija. How do you think traditional insurers are catering for on-demand or part-time gig economy workers? Is it only startups taking these customer segments seriously?
It's work in progress. Currently, we are pushing a lot with insurance companies, and the process is slow. So we need time until they convince that internally and give approval that they can change one particular underwriting parameter. Of course, working with insurance tech startups, it's much faster. They can integrate into our system in API much faster. They can change anything. If they have sufficient underwriting authority, they can adapt very fast. So learn, adapt. So in 1 week, they could change 3 or 4 items. But it's definitely with the traditional insurance companies, the process of change is much slower.
Gotcha. And a follow-up to that, the question was, which insurers do Uber take inspiration from, or is your own innovation all coming from your internal makeup?
So, as you know, partner protection was achievement for it was co-designing with AXA, so it's a core strategic and global partner. So it was it didn't happen overnight. So the partnership needed a lot of testing, and we created something really unique, and was first of its kind, this product in Europe. With other carriers, we have some strategic partner in Nordics, but we don't have one favorite that I could say this is our one and only inspirational insurance company.
All right. And this one looks like, either one of you could, any one of us could answer here. Maybe each one of us can give a little bit of insights, but how are insurers creating innovative products for the elderly generation or the boomers, or is everything focused on the young? Elena, maybe you can kick us off here.
Okay. I think every company is moving into this welfare, well-being, well-care type of approach, and this obviously goes to everyone. So it doesn't go to a specific niche. It goes more to it starts from the beginning with tracking of the health of one specific customer, and it follows that specific customer through the life cycle till the end, with the specific focus on the caregivers. Again, here providing them with a service which allow them to feel safe when they leave the kids home or when they leave old parents home. And this is one part. The second part is to learn with all this big data approach that we have these days, to understand from the beginning how one specific disease will develop and capture every customer in our books, understanding what well, it sounds bad, but it's not, what's going to be the end of the disease. Or, it starts with some sort of medicines at the beginning, and then it goes into some sort of doctors that you go to, and then you go to do some sort of whatever. And if you track all this data, which is a huge amount of data, and you need to use machine learning and all those stuff to learn, you can actually say this specific customer with this not so serious problems at the beginning will probably end up having this specific disease in the end. So I offer that specific customer services, doctors, specialized, and hospitals and whatever, to say, that you will feel better, you will make sure that it comes later over the years, and so on and so forth. So I think obviously we have specific niche of products for specific type of customers, but I think the idea of insurance that we have is to be broader, so to focus on the full population and to make their life easier and to really easy their, or reach the peace of mind that I was talking to you before.
Great. Viktorija, what about you? You have any thoughts here?
Sorry, I just missed the last part.
Oh, in terms of, do you think that everyone is really just focusing, or are there any innovative products for the elderly generation, the boomers, or is everyone really just focused on the young?
Well, this question as well raised by us. So in terms of social protection, there's not enough for gig economy, like any type of pension or saving mechanism in place that will be more tailored to gig economy workers. So this is more on future of work, product development. So that kind of ties in lack of savings or pension products for this type of group of people.
Right. And from my experience, I mean, I know that
and we don't discriminate like any on age, or we build products to fit workers with family ready to retire and the younger. So we don't have tailor-made products.
Right. Yeah, and from my perspective, and just in chatting with with the carriers and keeping my eyes out, I'm not really seeing a lot of innovative product for the elderly generation. Kind of like I talked about when it comes to longevity, like the body is outliving the mind, and even the support. I mean, sure, we have older products like long-term care. It's expensive. It's not necessarily easy for most people to purchase. But so I think there's a lot of room for that, but I think everybody is really more focused on the young and being digital, the digital transformation. It's more about digital transformation than it is product innovation. So, I hear the things that, Viktorija and Elena are working on, but I think these are some very bright women and some very bright firms, and there's just not a lot that is going on. Maybe behind the scenes, but not anything that's necessarily live. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that. Elena, I have another question here for you. It says, how do you work with the heads of product? Generally, how do underwriting and product work together to develop new product and services?
That's a good one. I think all the insurance companies are changing their organization in such a way that the let's call it market management or product proposition separately from the rest, from the technical stuff. So there's a specific office which is taking care of benchmarking what the market is doing, understanding how the customer needs are changing, deep diving into specific niches if necessary, looking into what the startups are doing, fintechs and things like that. So that's a specific office which is separate from underwriting. Obviously, always in contact with underwriting and pricing, because that phase number 2. So phase number 1 is, this deep dive of what's going on and how we can basically propose new products and services. And then phase number 2 is to talk to the underwriters and claims to understand whether we can create a specific product out of the outcomes. And step number 3, obviously, is attaching a price to it. So I think organizations are changing in such a way that we have a proposition step separate from the rest. The second step, which goes into creating the product itself, and the step number 3, which is attaching a pricing to it. But you need to have this separate, because people in proposition and market management needs to have time and not being really involved into the daily dynamics of underwriting policies and whatever. So I think it needs to be a strong collaboration between these 3 departments: market management, underwriting, and claims, to create the final outcome, which is a product which will be then sold to the final customers.
Gotcha. I think there's a question here. I'm looking at it. Probably, I think it's fit for Viktorija. I think it was Viktorija, but either one. But it says, you've mentioned creating an extended value chain or ecosystem, citing examples such as Vitality and John Hancock. My question is, how do you think the competitive landscape will shift in the near future as incumbents try to become the orchestrators of an ecosystem? Right. I think either one of you, that's a loaded question, but if either one of you have some insights on that.
I think Viktorija is perfect for this.
Could you just try to break it down, that question?
Right. Hold on. I think I just lost it. Basically, it's looking at how do we think the competitive landscape will shift in the near future? Thinking about how the incumbents try to come in and create new ecosystems. What is that extended value chain? Do you see any changes or expect any major changes in the future?
Well, that I mentioned, there is a need for traditional insurer with a large capacity to change. And for example, we have struggles that if we, as a global or pan-European or EMEA player in Europe, that would have one point of contact in a large insurance infrastructure, that will have one profit center, that we don't need to go to every single Zurich or Allianz or entities and have over and over the same conversation, but in different country. So we need more holistic group point of contact for global client. And of course, the insurance tech companies that you see, it's a huge boom. There's a lot of investment, and we work with a few insurance tech companies, and they break the value of a traditional insurance company. So they really optimize the claims, the customer journey is more friendly. It's so it's much faster to adapt to customer needs, and they disrupt and make the insurance companies to try to move faster in order to compete. So this is a second point. Just thinking.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's great. I mean, I think that, in terms of like the competitive landscape, I think we're going to start seeing, some carriers and, kind of break away, right? They're going to be innovative. They're going to move forward with new product. They're going to be more customer centric, providing, very specific products and meeting the needs. So you'll see a breakaway, I think. But and you're going to see these new people, these newer companies and startups come in, and they're going to lead the path. So I think we're going to start seeing some segregation or categorization, if you will, of the different types of carriers out there. So I think that would be my input there. I've got. I think I've got one here for Elena, and it says, is most automation-based improvement focused on simpler, low-premium policies, or what kind of technology innovation do you see being useful for larger, more complex policies?
For large, I mean, the question is related to large corporates. So moving into, large corporations like Annie, and is this the question? So
yes. So one question is specifically focused on, is most automation-based improvement focused on more simple, low-premium policies? Is that where you're seeing most of the automation occurring? Mm-hmm.
Right now, that's what I'm facing. And going back to your point before, with startups and new companies coming in, that's really the fear that the insurance company have right now.
Right.
We really pushing into automating, simplifying, pushing for having a better time to market to reply to our customers and so on. But we're not really pushing hard into, innovating products. We're more trying to take what we have and adapt it to the new digital space with adding up services and devices and stuff like that. So I think that's a fair comment. I think we are more focused on trying to make better what we do already in the automation space, rather than adding up additional new features. And the fact that someone could come in and completely change the approach for the traditional insurance company, which, as I think Ram was mentioning at the beginning, all legacy systems, slow processes, whatever, those things still exist. And we have to face and to, we suffer for that every single day. So it's, that's the part which is more difficult to change.
Right. And then I've got one last question, which is, I think, as we round out the next 10 minutes to be the top of the hour, I think this is really important. I also think that this question, it's a very, very company-centric, kind of personal experience. So I'd ask both of you to expand and give some input. But as you think about new policies and the ideation and how you go about selecting ideas before you start that proof of concept. What kind of methodology do you use? Do you use design thinking, or design sprints? What kind of tools do you use to help you get down that ideation, and then even prioritize and select which you go after first? Either one of you.
So we use design thinking for motor product launch. As well, we use a lot before the driver partner surveys. So we interview quite extensively. So trying to figure out really what is at the core, what is the need and the problem before we try to dive into solutions. So yeah, that was very helpful to really structure the product and find which key elements are very important.
And how do you prioritize that in terms, you could probably come up with several different solutions to help support a specific challenge or problem, but how do you prioritize that, Viktorija?
So, then it ends up really like at what is the free USP that you can easily communicate to the customer. If you cannot, if the rest is just a noise, then it's better not to focus on that. So really like diving, what is the message we try to convey? What are the key features that everyone understands? Okay, and it will create kind of resemblance to this product, and will be, yes, I know what it's all about, and it will be clear message. Because if you think about motor, you can add so many elements, but at the end of the day, like what is this product all about? You need to have like 3 key features. This is this product, pay as you go, or there's a amazing business interruption cover that is very important for you if you have an accident, when vehicle is immobilized or broken down. These are 2 features that are important and it's easy to resemble. It's just an example of the mode.
Gotcha. Elena, how about you guys? How do you go through the ideation phase before you go into proof of concept?
Normally we have a long list of pain points, and we try to understand what the other insurance companies or other industries are coping with those pain points. Then we have a phase which is quite intensive to look for partners. To startups, especially startups. So we go into that world to see whether there's someone who has tried to solve with different solutions the problem. And then we have another step. Once we identify the possible, let's say, solution, we go into some sort of design thinking with different topics inside. Cost benefit is the driver. So we make a very detailed cost and benefit analysis. And according to this cost benefit approach, we prioritize the different solutions. And once we identify, let's say, the first 2, 3, we go into POC, proof of concept phase or pilot phase, and we test. We have some sort of A/B testing approach where more than one proof of concept is launched at the same time to see if the pain point can be solved and how.
Great. That's great. It's great information. I get that question quite frequently, and I know it's everybody has a different process, and it's really kind of built based on the core values of the company. But design thinking is a great tool, and I see it used quite frequently. I've used it in the past with other carriers, and so it's a good solution if you're not familiar with it. Definitely lots of different firms out there. I think K-Canero is a good one that can help with design thinking and kind of getting everybody up to speed in the ideation and prioritization. So thank you, ladies, so much for your time today and sharing with us, especially as we roll into the 2019 new year. And with that, I will turn it over to Graham to close us out.
Thank you, Sam. Just reiterating your point, thank you, everybody, for joining us on the session today. Thank you to our speakers, Elena and Viktorija. Samantha, thank you so much for moderating that. We're really keen to continue the conversation around innovation in product development. And as I mentioned at the start of the session, this forms a major theme at the Connected Insurance Europe events next year. Please head over to the website, insurancenexus.com. Have a look at what we're doing there. There's lots of developments in terms of the companies taking part and the speakers, etc., and lots of benefits in terms of registration. Also, you can add me on LinkedIn, Graham Proud. I'm happy to continue any conversations. This is a topic that we're really interested in and we're researching thoroughly, continually. So with that, I'll say goodbye. Have a great weekend, everybody, and see you on Insurance Nexus webinar very soon.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.